From New York City to Nashville and every road in between, Jenna Torres' songs tell of hope, heartache, and a life well worn. A country rock siren who has won acclaim as a recording artist and songwriter, Jenna finds no shortage of inspiration when it comes to matters of the heart. And she has a way of distilling her experiences into heartfelt songs of love and loss, whether drawing from personal experience or stories of those she meets along her way. And Jenna Torres has enjoyed a successful career writing songs for Warner Music Group and Warner Chappell Music. And noteworthy artists have cut songs from Jenna's pen, including singing sensation Martha Wash from The Weather Girls, for whom Jenna wrote the anthem Proud. And Jenna co-wrote the moving cry for Spiritual Connection, Busted Heart with Ben Glover, charting in the top 10 on the Billboard Christian Hot 100, AC and CHR charts for the group for King and Country. So ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome singer, songwriter, and the country rock siren herself, Jenna Torres. Welcome to the show.
So glad to be here, Ward.
Well, now let me ask you this, because I'm more interested in a lot of people's backstories. So do you come from a musical family?
I do not come from a musical family. There was, I would say, a shortage of music in my family, but there was no shortage of music in my heart and soul. I feel like I was drawn to music as medicine, really, from the time I was a very small child. Everything felt better to me with a melody attached to it. And so I kind of sung my way through childhood. One of my earliest memories is singing my sister to sleep, and I did the same with my brother. And I was a tiny little thing, but I would just kind of attach the goings on of the day to a melody, and I would sing her what happened during the day, and I just always felt that magical connection between words and melody, that if you infuse a thought or a feeling with melody, it carries it carries the words further, and it reaches deeper into a person than just simply saying I love you and singing I love you, worlds apart, really.
Well, it
So
is. And, that's one reason why I love music so much. I love talking to people who are recording artists like you, people who work in the music industry. There's just something so powerful about
yeah.
music itself. And for you, who were some of your earliest musical influences that kind of moved you into what you wanted to do?
Well, I think Dolly Parton, Bonnie Raitt. Um, I was really connected to some of the early kind of rock bands, the Eagles, Tom Petty, um, and also I did love musicals. I loved a lot of, Mary Poppins and things like that. When I was a small child, um, any story set to music really just connected to me and made me feel alive. And yeah, I've always enjoyed the feeling that I get from hearing a story told in song. It works for me. I feel like song is the ultimate vehicle for emotion, and I'm a very emotional person. So considering that I had a lot of unbridled emotion as a young person, uh, finding song was the it was actually kind of miraculous. It gave me a place, a container to pour my emotions in, and it sort of contained them so they wouldn't spill out all over the place. So that's kind of how I see it.
Well, what is your favorite song of all time and why?
Like that question, Ward, and I'll tell you why. I don't like it because I am a lover of song, and literally I could turn on the radio, check my Spotify today, and fall madly in love with a new song. And I fall in love with music every day. I hear songs and I think that's the best song I've ever heard. But if you really make me tell you what one of I'll tell you one of my favorite songs. One of my favorite songs of all time actually is I can't make you love me, which by
Oh,
Bonnie Raitt. Um
that's one of the best songs ever written.
ever written. It's a perfect song in my estimation because it speaks completely honestly about an emotion that is it's just true. It's just the truth. And when you capture the truth, 3 chords in the truth or whatever it is, I think there's more than 3 chords in that song, but still there's just something about it that just penetrates the heart and you know when you've heard the truth in a song. And
Well,
that's one of my favorites.
yeah, and see, one thing I love about you choosing that song is because it's very moving, it's very emotional. When Bonnie sings it, you literally move along with her from beginning to end of that song. And that's why music is so powerful. I tell so many people you have to remember music creates memories. If something happens in our life and a song is playing, the brain automatically puts that song to that situation, to that moment. So the next
Yes.
time you hear it, it'll almost take you back to something that was good or maybe something not so good. But that's the power of music. And
Music.
but I'm going to ask you. This is a question I've never asked anybody,
Oh,
and because you mentioned Spotify, I have a Spotify account. Now,
yeah.
do you have a particular song on your Spotify list that you love to hear, but if somebody knew you actually listened to that song, they would kind of look at you like, "Really? You like that?" Do you have that secret song that you kind of listen on your own that when nobody else is around?
I don't know that I don't know that I have that song, that particular song that's like a embarrassing secret that, I probably like a cross section of music that a lot of my friends wouldn't like, my daughter might, turn her nose up at. I mean, I think one of the things that I'm sure of in life is that you have to have the courage of your convictions. If you like something, go ahead and like it and don't worry about what anybody else says or thinks. Just do it. Just like it. Love it, like it, enjoy it, let it happen, let her rip, So I try as hard as it can be because we're all self-conscious to some degree. I try to be transparent with what I love because I feel like, if you can love something, you might inspire somebody else to love it. And if you can stand up for an I'm particularly interested in standing up for the underdog, so if I can love something that perhaps hasn't been recognized or appreciated by other people, I think that's always nice to say, well, you may not like it but I love it, and it may encourage other people to give something a chance. uh,
Yeah, it does. I have a few songs on my list that I think people would probably consider maybe considered a little sappy, but
yeah.
there's art in sappy. And
Oh,
and
I'm the corny queen. I give it to me, I mean, I'll cry at a TV commercial. I'm very easily moved, because I kind of
yeah,
live on.
and because sometimes I'll listen to those what I call my little secret songs, and you're breaking them down mentally. You're listening to the songwriter, you're listening to the hook in the song or the beat or the melody, and you're like, that's why I like this song. Everybody else may think I'm crazy or for whatever liking it, but that's the thing about music. There's so
Yeah.
many different parts to it. But for you, what first led you into songwriting?
Well, um, I've always loved to sing, and but I never really considered myself like a great singer. But what happened, I think, to me is that I had something to say, and um, and my favorite way to say it is to sing it, as I mentioned to you. So I can distinctly remember when I put my first thoughts, my into a song and how it felt to sing my song. And once I made that connection that um singing my song was less about whether or not I was a good singer and just whether or not I had a story to tell. It became, I wouldn't say addictive, but it became a passion that it didn't matter anymore that I wasn't, I didn't have 8 octaves to my at my just 4 octaves at my disposal. It just mattered that I could carry the message, and I enjoy being a message carrier because I have a natural appetite for communication, communicating just like you. You know, we communication is nourishing for my body and soul. I just want to communicate. And I think when you have that inclination to communicate, you just find whatever way you can to get your point across. And I think that's what draws me to song as a form. It to me it's a perfect, like I said, perfect vehicle for my emotions. Um, I have to be concise. I have to get to the point. I have to make sure that I pare down and distill an emotion into something that is easily transmissible. And I love that challenge. I love the challenge of saying, get rid of all the crap, all the stuff that doesn't matter, and just really focus on the most critical, meaningful, um, powerful aspect of an emotion, and see how you can do it, see how you can get it in there, fit it right into the box, and then put wings on it and let it fly. So
Well, that kind of brings me to my next question because as a singer songwriter, I've read that you have said that your job description is that you sell hope. What do you mean by that?
well, that was a little, I don't love the idea of selling anything. So I wouldn't say that I sell hope. um, in my own words, I would say that I think I believe in living by example. um, as a mother, I think one of the things I've learned is that kids are watching you as much as they're listening to you. And so I think what I do is I try to show through song and through life that I want to set an example of hope, but even when it's hard, because I don't always have it. I don't always preach what I have. I preach what I want and what I believe in, what I'm going for. I'm not the best example of a hopeful heart, but I fight for it. I'm not willing to lay down or give up or anything like that. So I think that um, putting, kind of sharing the idea that it's worth having hope is something I'm telling myself at the same time as I'm telling other people. Sometimes you got to, how it's so much easier to tell somebody else it's going to be all right. You're going to be fine. It's going to be all right. You're great. You've got everything you need. And then, when you're at home alone, you feel like, you feel your own sense of despair and hopelessness. So I get a lot out of trying to be helpful to other people and trying to offer hope. And in doing so, the benefit is that I hear my own voice saying, don't give up, don't give up. You got to keep going. So I have to live the example that I'm preaching, basically.
Yeah, and I completely agree with that. And we're all that way. We're all that way. And
All that.
sometimes our life could be in complete turmoil, but we're
Yes.
there to be, the shoulder. We're here to be the soothing voice to help someone else. And that
That's
kind of brings up something because you have an interesting story. And I know that there was a turning point in your musical journey that came about after you wrote a series of songs just a few blocks from ground zero in the months after 9/11. Can you talk a little bit about that?
sure. I am a native New Yorker. Uh, this is I'm currently speaking to you from New York City, although I spend quite a bit of my time in Nashville now, my second home that I dearly love. But 9/11 occurred. I was within a few miles of it. I saw the entire thing. I had a front row seat. And it was a demarcation point, just not just for me, but for the entire world. But in my case, it was an infusion of clarity that if my life were to go on any further, I was going to have to end my marriage. So it was an important day in my own personal history, as well as the uh, the rest of the world. Because I think when you're faced with mortality and the fact that you can lose it in an instant, you have to think hard about what you want your life to look like. And and I did some hard looking. And in an instant, everything changed, not just for me, but for everybody. And in the aftermath, I got a job working at Ground Zero, a block from where the World Trade Center stood, renting apartments. I pretty much figured music is out of the question. Things are shifting and in turmoil in my life. Single mom. What am I going to do? I got a job in real estate, and the job was to fill up a building that had been completely abandoned by its tenants. It was 3% occupied. So 97% of the tenants fled, leaving their belongings behind. And there I was with this giant key ring, you know, that I could open the door to all these apartments. I'd open the door and see people's belongings there, their flat screen TVs, pictures of their families. They had just run because it was literally few feet away from a gaping wound in the earth, where once our towers had stood, there now was this profound wound, and we as a people felt the wound. And I considered it my job to kind of be part of the healing of this city, the city that I was born and raised in. And so that job was really a very intense and an important experience in my life. And I would meet with people every day who would take one look, and either they'd run or they'd stay, and they'd show me that they wanted to, set up, pitch their tent right over this open wound in an effort to kind of be a part of saying, you know what, we're still here. We're gonna keep going. We're gonna move on. And it was extremely inspiring. The
Yeah.
other side of the coin is that I was alone a lot, alone with the spirits of the departed, alone right there where people had lost their lives. And a lot of people didn't want to come and see these apartments. So I spent a lot of time just kind of, you know, in a very contemplative state. And I started bringing my guitar to work with me each day. And I would just strum and think and dream. And I wrote a bunch of songs. And those songs, I ended up recording them in a very simple, nothing very expensive, kind of demo like fashion. And those songs were heard by a very few number of people. It just happened that one of the people that heard the songs was the head of Warner Music, and he liked them, and he sent them around. And I was passed on. And you get passed up and rejected a lot on this road. I was passed on in New York. I was passed on in Nashville at the time, but the lady who heard, the A&R person who heard it in LA, and I'll say her name, Judy Stakey, she heard something and she called me and she said, "Listen, you ever come out here? I'd like to meet you." Well, it took me about a year to get out there, but when I got out there, I walked through her door, and it was kind of a love at first sight type of a thing. And a small miracle in my life happened. I mean, it was actually pretty big to me. And within meeting her 24 hours later, you know there were lawyers involved, and all of a sudden I had a deal with Warner Music, a single mom, no hope of having any kind of blessings regarding music that I could see. And and that door opened for me. So
Yeah.
it was a huge turning point in my life, because not only did I get to go to Nashville, because she's like, "You got to go to Nashville, on our dime, we're going to make it happen. This is what happened." And so, yeah, my whole world opened up, and it hasn't shut back down. That offered me a tremendous amount of opportunity. I'll always be grateful for the things that have come out of that moment.
You know, I am literally, well, I'm blown away. I'm impressed.
Oh,
God does mighty things. And I'm hearing you first, you're telling the story of trying to rent or sell these apartments that people left everything. And the way you're describing that part of it, New Yorkers they chose to either fight to
yes.
stay or they chose flight to
That's
leave.
right.
And I can understand that. I mean, there's no shame in that whatsoever.
No shame.
And I can't even imagine sitting there every day
Yeah.
trying to get occupants for
Right.
these apartments that literally were just feet away from ground zero,
Yes.
and people full of fear never return. But then all of a sudden, here you are by faith, sitting
By
there
faith.
with a guitar in hand every day, writing songs. And then
Yeah.
one thing leads to another. And here you are writing for Warner Music Group and Warner Chappell, which also led to you writing the
Yeah.
the anthem "Proud" for the Weather Girls, Martha Wash. How did that come about?
Well, when I signed to Warner, an experience that I was brand new to me, because I was just kind of an independent indie girl, doing my own thing, nobody telling me, no expectations really, because when you're independent, the only expectations are your own that you put on yourself. And there's a lot of pressure in corporate songwriting. They have expectations that you're going to basically, it connects art to commerce in a way
Mhm.
that I wasn't, that familiar.
Well,
So,
hold on a second, because a lot of people don't understand how the music industry works.
yeah,
Songwriting is an art. There's not a science to it. It's an art.
it's
And
right.
I know some excellent songwriters. But you bring up something that most people never add to that, and that is commerce, because when songs are written, and when songs are written for a music group, and I don't mean a band, I'm talking about like Warner Music,
Yeah.
there are great expectations, and the point is we're here to make money. So how much, I mean, is that how do you handle that kind of pressure, knowing that's what they're thinking?
I didn't do a very good job of it, to be honest. I mean, I'm an artist. You know, art we don't there that half of the brain is barely functioning. I mean, all I want to do is make something beautiful, make something out of my emotions. As far as selling it and giving it a monetary value, that's kind of the last thing on my mind, really, especially in the creative process. I think for all of us, I mean, I have so many wonderful, amazing, talented friends who make beautiful art all the time, but that connection, the art and commerce thing it's a conundrum. It's an oxymoron. I don't know the words, there's some word for it
But
where
now
they
you've been,
belong together. Yeah.
yeah, because you've been doing this for a while now. Has it, now you're kind of more into understanding, and now maybe that pressure is no longer there, but now the artistic gets to truly take over?
Um, what I learned from working in the corporate world and then being dropped at one point, I'm back to being an independent artist, um, is that no matter what the circumstances, if you are an artist, you have to remain true to yourself regardless of how the fire breathing dragon of commerce is, or the expectations of you got to make money from this. You can't just make it. It's not enough to make the art. It has to make money to be art or to be legit. Um, but that's just not the way it really, really works. But what I have learned over the years is that being true to yourself is the ultimate reward. There's no amount of money that takes the place of that, even if there is an expectation. So the hard thing is to be true to yourself, with the pressure of expectations still upon you. And it's a trick because the external world is pulling at you saying, be what we want you to be. But true art comes from being yourself, right? Of getting in touch with your true essence. So it's a polarity, it's a conflict, and it's a war, it's a kind of a thing, like they're pulling at you and you have to remember who you are, and you're pulling and you're remembering and pulling and remembering, and of course you're comparing yourself. Oh, it didn't do as well as this, or I'm not enough like that, or they want this or that. So you really kind of have to be able to address that there is an external world and that you are trying to fit in on some level, but that the gold is inside you. It's
Yeah.
it really is, and you have to be willing to mind for it and stay true to it, because at the end of the day, at the end of the line, when you look back on what did you do and how did you um, live your life, I think being true to yourself is the ultimate success form of success.
Well,
You know,
what kind of feeling did you get when you had written hit songs for other people, like Proud and then
well, no, it's
Busted
great.
Heart? What's that
Yeah,
like?
it's an amazing feeling. Because as an artist, you want to reach as many people as you possibly can, with your truth. It's one thing to sit alone and have your truth in your living room. It's like, oh, this feels good. But it feels amazing when many people share your truth and they're like, that speaks to me. And of course, we live, in a world where, fortunately for artists, we are able to reach beyond transcend our zip codes and our boundaries, physical boundaries, because we do have the internet. And there's a lot of things we can do now that we weren't able to do before, that does involve reaching people. And, the thrill of a success in, commercial terms is fantastic, but it doesn't keep you warm at night. The thing that keeps you warm and feeling genuinely good about yourself is that you did it with the right intentions, that your intentions were good from the start. So if somebody, if something takes off and it kind of rains down this beautiful miracle on you, that, oh my gosh, people are enjoying what I'm doing and they're paying for it, and it's paying my rent, and it all kind of comes together in this one beautiful experience that feels more whole than just being, having just a few people say I love your stuff. Yeah, that's the dream. That is the dream. I'm not going to say it's not the dream. It's definitely the dream.
Yeah,
But
it's the dream, and I understand that you made, and you had already mentioned this, but you made the move to Nashville again. It's one of my favorite cities of all time, and
yes.
now you split time between Music City and your home in New York City. But this summer you released the title track to your upcoming album, Tennessee Heat, and described it as a love letter to Tennessee. So, what does Nashville mean to you?
It really means the world to me, in that it represents freedom for me, and on a lot of levels. My family's here in New York. I'm extremely close to my family, and I feel when I'm in New York that my life is largely revolves around them, and they're meeting their needs, and making sure that everybody else is happy. And I'm kind of the rock and they're the butterflies. But in Nashville, I have my wings. It's really about my creative freedom, my personal freedom, my emotional freedom, my physical freedom. It means freedom to me. Nashville is freedom to me. And it was the first time I ever felt so connected to an artistic community. It's a tribal town. We all understand each other. We have this baseline of understanding, because artists have a tendency to be emotional, erratic, moody, all kinds of stuff. We rise and fall with our latest adventure, our latest efforts, and if things are going well, we're on the up. If things are going poorly, we're on the down. And so we're all just kind of going up and down, and kind of waving at each other. Hey, you up, you down, you up, you down. No matter whether you're up or down, I get you. And I enjoy that kind of unspoken camaraderie and understanding, depth of understanding, that only really comes from other people who understand the um, the breadth of what we go through to bring forth, our hearts and souls and share them with people.
You're saying the same things that I'm hearing from a lot of people that I've talked to in Nashville.
Yeah.
The idea of people saying, I'm going to go to Nashville and I'm going to make
Yeah.
it big. And so you get the thought of the person stepping off the bus with a guitar case in one hand and one suitcase in the other. But what
Yep.
I hear more than anything now from mostly singer-songwriters and a lot of songwriters is the tight community of the songwriting community in Nashville, that people can just come together and sit down and
Yeah,
collaborate. And what I love about having everybody tell me these things is that you don't hear about competition. I think competition is created by the record label. And of course, when somebody reaches that A-list type of level, there'll probably be that feeling of competition with another artist and who's getting more promo than somebody else. But the songwriting community is so tight in Nashville, but all I've ever heard is great things. And
yeah,
I'm hearing that from you.
yeah. It's real. It's absolutely real, and I know I'm not unique. This is something that we all feel. Um, absolutely. Competition is going to be there. I think we all kind of try to support one another as best we can. And also because we have the awareness and the wisdom to know, listen, you may be hitting it big this week, but it's there's a what is it? There's an up and a down. There's two sides to there are the hills and valleys of this creative path. And you can nobody stays up 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 up. Eventually you have to come down to go back up again. you know um it's just the way of it. And so I think it is a tremendously supportive, loving community. It's a loving town, not just for us, but for people who visit. It is a happy place for the most part. I think just the spirit of the city is very loving and and beautiful. So I'm a big supporter and fan of Nashville.
Well,
Yeah.
how often do you perform?
Well, not as frequently as I'd like, but coming up in support of this new record, I plan to be performing quite a bit. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about the new single, one called Prayers Up, which
Yeah.
explores looking for support from a higher power when we find ourselves in the depths of despair. So, what inspired that song?
Well, I do find that when people are at their lowest ebb, whether they are believers or non-believers, we tend to ask for help. It's To me, it's both a kind of a plea and also an acknowledgement and of how much pain we're in. I mean, unfortunately, I have lived, and fortunately, I have lived a pretty full life that involves loss and heartache, and on a very deep level. And one of the beautiful things about being a songwriter is that I can take my life experience and talk about the things that are so hard to talk about in real life. Um, and share it in a song in a way that makes other people feel less alone. I hope, and I know that prayer is, to me, it's just a universal language. It's something that you can find in every culture, in every faith, and even in people who have questionable faith. Because I do think that when things are really, really bad, we wonder, is there anyone out there, is there anything out there that can come and wrap itself around me and lift me up from the depths of despair. And so the song came in a very beautiful way. I knew I had to sing it. I knew it had to be written. And some songs are like that. I don't know, for those of you who are on Facebook and that sort of thing, there isn't a day that goes by that I don't find many, many people asking for prayer. And so many people, I guess I was just seeing it so much, sending prayers your way, prayers up, sending prayers up. And it just literally, I kind of heard it. The chorus came in one piece, not haven't changed, didn't have to change a single note or word of that chorus. It just happened, you know, and I felt that, yeah, I needed to sing it. And I want other people to know that they're not alone, that we are all in this together.
And you took the words right out of my mouth. Ladies and gentlemen, viewers, listeners, we are not alone. If you ever feel like you're alone, you call out to his name and he's
Yeah,
right there.
right there.
And Jenna, prayers up. What an amazing song. And your new album, Tennessee Heat. Where can all of my viewers and listeners buy this album?
Thank you so much, Ward. It is a joy to speak with you. I really, really enjoyed it.
Well, you're very welcome. And so tell everybody where they can find you on the internet.
I'm easy to find. Literally, if you just put Jenna Torres in, all kinds of stuff is going to pop up. But you can go to jennatorres.com, and from there, it'll take you to my Facebook, my Instagram, my Twitter, my YouTube, which has lots of videos and more to come. And I can't wait to see all of you out there somewhere. And please come say hi. So much of the joy of doing this is knowing that you can hear me. And I really appreciate you taking the time to spend with me, Ward, and allowing me to speak to your viewers.
Oh, you are so welcome. And ladies and gentlemen, go to jennatorres.com. And what do I always say? We buy the music. We buy the merch. We buy the concert tickets. So go to jennatorres.com, buy the album Tennessee Heat. Contains the brand new single, Prayers Up. And I can tell you this, the album is fantastic. But more importantly, when she comes to your area, buy the ticket, buy the t-shirt, go see her, be a part of the crowd, and just have fun and enjoy, because music always makes the memories. Hey, and I can tell you one thing, all of us know that anytime we've gone to a concert, we always remember every recording act we have ever seen in our entire life. And I have seen many and remember every single one. And so when you go see Jenna Torres in person, you will remember her music. So again, jennatorres.com for her brand new album, Tennessee Heat, as well as the brand new powerful single, Prayers Up. And Jenna, thank you so much for being on the program today.
Thank you for having me, Ward.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, stick around because I'll be right back with more.